Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for tuning in this evening. My name is Serena Longo, and on behalf of Harvard Bookstore, Northshire Bookstore, and R.J. Julia Booksellers, I'm so pleased to introduce tonight's talk with Deepak Chopra, presenting his new book, Total Meditation, Practices in Living the Awakened Life. Through virtual events like tonight's, indie bookstores across the country continue to bring authors and their work to our communities and our new digital communities. Learn more at harvard.com, northshire.com, and rjjulia.com, where you can review our upcoming events calendars and browse our shelves from home. This evening's event will conclude with some time for your questions. If you have a question for our speaker, go to the Q&A box to submit at any time during the event. We'll come to those at the end, and we'll work on answering as many of your questions as time allows. In just a moment, I'll post the bookstore links to purchase Total Meditation in the chat box. Your book and ticket purchases make this virtual author series possible, and now more than ever, support the future of these three great New England bookstores. Thank you for tuning in. We sincerely appreciate your support now and always. And finally, if we have any tech issues during the event tonight, we'll do our best to resolve them quickly. Thank you for your patience and your understanding. And now I'm so pleased to introduce our speaker. Deepak Chopra is a world-renowned pioneer in integrative medicine and personal transformation. He is the founder of the Chopra Foundation, a nonprofit entity for research on well-being and humanitarianism, and Chopra Global, a modern-day health company at the intersection of science and spirituality. Time magazine has described Dr. Chopra as one of the top 100 heroes and icons of the century. He is the author of over 90 books, including numerous New York Times bestsellers. His latest book, Total Meditation, explores and reinterprets the physical, mental, emotional, relational, and spiritual benefits that the practice of meditation can bring. We're so pleased to be hosting him tonight, and now I will turn things over to Deepak Chopra. Thanks.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Serena. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, all wonderful three bookstores in New England that I've visited in the past and hope to visit in the future. Today's talk is, of course, about the new book, Total Meditation. But before we get there, I do want to emphasize one thing in the midst of this COVID pandemic, and that is that what we're witnessing right now is a process called grief. We've lost a certain way of living our lives, and when people have loss, of course, they experience grief. As a physician, I've experienced that many times with my patients. And if you look at the landscape of grief globally right now, you'll see that people are in different stages. Some are feeling victimized, some are angry, some are feeling hostility, some are just resentful, some are frustrated, some are feeling helpless, some have resigned. But what we need right now is acceptance of the situation as it is. Because if we do not accept the situation as it is, we will not understand the meaning of what is happening globally right now. Financial crisis, pandemic, with the sickness, young and old people getting sick, frequently dying. A lot of people have died. And all our data right now shows that those who are getting sick, seriously sick, have inflammation in their body. The elderly who are getting sick already have some chronic disease. They have some inflammation in their body. They have low-grade anxiety and depression. And this precedes the illness. And those who are younger have something called acute inflammatory storms or cytokine storms. Our data shows that if you override this sympathetic hyperactivity through meditation, mindfulness, practices that decrease the activity of our internal dialogue and ultimately go to the source of thought, then you can mitigate against the devastating morbidity and mortality that is occurring. And therefore, mindfulness and meditation and contemplative practices become very important. Therefore, total meditation. So let me, with that, show you the first slide, which gives you a little idea of what I'm going to say before we get into the actual meditation practices themselves. I want to connect total meditation to the future of our well-being. So let's go to the next slide, please. And as we look at the next slide, you'll see it's a very interesting kind of heading from a recent, may I have the next slide, please? Yes. So this is a cover story. No, stay here. This is a cover story of the New Scientist from a few months ago. It's very interesting cover with a person in yogic practice. And the headline says, Your Thinking Body. So about 1988, I had written a book called Quantum Healing, which was just about that, the body being a network of intelligence, thought being defined as the mind which regulates the flow of energy and information in the body. Since then, a lot of people have actually focused on a precise definition of the mind. Dan Siegel, a psychiatrist at UCLA, says that the mind is an embodied, which means it's in the body, and relational process, because the mind only gets active as a result of relationship. So right now, my mind is engaging with your mind. Hopefully, I'm getting some feedback, but the mind is both relational and embodied, and it regulates the flow of energy and information in our body. If I just asked you right now to close your eyes and think of a very stressful situation that you're having in your life right now, whatever it is, finances, health, marital discord, an unhealthy relationship, somebody who's attacking you verbally or otherwise, you just think of that and immediately your blood pressure will go up, your platelets will get sticky, and your heart rate variability will get fixed. All signs of stress and inflammatory markers will go up. On the other hand, if I just ask you right this moment to think of someone that you love and feel that experience in your body, your mind, your brain will start to make things like serotonin and opiates and dopamine and oxytocin, all of which happen to be immunomodulators. So there's no doubt that your body is a thinking body and that every cell in your body is eavesdropping on the mind. The second part of this headline, though, the subtitle is misleading. It says, Why Consciousness Isn't All in the Mind. Well, the mind is in consciousness, the other way around. Consciousness is the source of mind. Consciousness is also the source of perceptual activity, which gives rise to the experience of what we call the physical body and the physical world. So consciousness is fundamental. Mind and body are two complementary activities of it. Whatever happens in the mind is recorded in the body. Whatever happens in the body is recorded in the mind. We should think of body-mind as one unit, just like we think of space-time as a single entity or mass energy as a single entity, or wave particle as a single entity. We should be thinking of body-mind as a single entity. So with that, let's see what I call here. The next slide, please. The next slide, Serena. May we have the next, yeah. So now as we look at the next slide, we'll see that there are 7 pillars that I have identified here as the pillars of well-being. And they're all equally important. Sleep, meditation and stress management, movement, yoga, breathing, emotions, nourishment, nutrition, biological rhythms. And then we get to the real point of why we are here. The real purpose of meditation is to get us to know ourselves beyond thought, beyond emotions, beyond mind, beyond body, beyond the experience of the world. And in Eastern wisdom traditions, this is called self-awareness or self-realization, meaning to realize who you really are. My last two books have been focused on this, both MetaHuman and now Total Meditation. MetaHuman spoke about how to get out of the conditioned mind, and Total Meditation is how to stay there. Basically, that's what these two books are. MetaHuman, go beyond the conditioned mind. How to stop being a biological robot that's constantly being triggered by people and circumstance into predictable outcomes, because then there's no creativity in that experience. And then total meditation is how to be grounded in that experience so we are not victimized by situations, circumstances, people, and events into predictable, robotic, recycled responses. Every thought becomes recycled everybody else's thought as a result of social media, news, and on and on. So we never actually access our original creativity or intuition or insight or imagination, or harness the powers of attention or intention and the power to heal ourselves. But as we get there, we should go over these preceding 6 pillars of sleep, because they're very important right now for everyone. Tonight, please, when you go to sleep after this lecture or this event, make sure that you have a totally dark room, preferably no sound whatsoever, no electronics, and lie quietly in bed, close your eyes, observe your breath through your nose, and pretend that your body is paralyzed. Don't move it, and you'll see in a few minutes you'll fall asleep. This is very interesting because when we are totally still, even in activity, when lying down after activity, when we're totally still inside, but also still in the body, that sends a message to the brain that go to sleep. Because in sleep, our muscles indeed are paralyzed. You keep them still, that's how the brain gets the message. You know, I wear all these devices these days to monitor my sleep. And of course, they're not on my brain, they're here, because what they measure is muscle movement, which correlates with sleep. In any case, get a good night's sleep. When you sleep, you decrease the chances of getting Alzheimer's, heart disease, diabetes, hormone imbalances, metabolic syndrome, on and on. During sleep, amyloid is flushed out from your body, inflammatory markers come down, the immune system is fine-tuned, and self-regulation and healing occur. The second pillar here that you see is meditation and stress management. And I kind of put them separately here because there are many ways to manage stress, including watching a good movie, laughter, poetry, music, dance, all kinds of things that we can do, massage. Sleep itself is a good way to manage healthy relationships, on and on. But meditation has a very specific effect on our gene activity and also on our self-regulation, has specific biological effects that I'll show you in a few moments. And when we combine that with the third modality, movement, about 10,000 steps a day, mind-body coordination through yogic practice or any martial arts, such as, for example, Tai Chi, Qigong, anything that helps balance body and mind, including ballet. All those things are very useful in stimulating a nerve in the body, which is called the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve counteracts the effects of an overactive sympathetic nervous system. So right now, as I mentioned, people who are getting sick are having what is called sympathetic overdrive, which induces something called the fight-flight response. And then in addition to that, human beings have something called the reactive response or the ego response, which means in a threatening situation, we either fight, flight, or run, we fight or run, or we freeze. or we manipulate situations by control dramas. We manipulate by being nasty, we manipulate by being nice, we manipulate by being stubborn, we manipulate by playing the victim. And all these responses, actually, there is no creativity, there's only increased stress and inflammation. Meditation allows us to go beyond this response, the reactive response, into what we call centered awareness, and then intuition, and then creativity, then higher vision, and ultimately transcendence and liberation or freedom to create the life you want. And that's what meditation is about, to create your own reality. And I mean that very specifically, not metaphorically. So we'll come to that in a moment as well. Our emotions, of course, play a big role, right? As at the start of this lecture, I said to you, think of a stressful situation, feel your body. Think of being in love, feel your body. Two different experiences, completely. Just the thought of that changes us. So anytime when people feel anxiety or anger or hostility or guilt or shame or depression, their body gets inflamed. Anytime they feel love, compassion, joy, empathy, peace, the body goes into self-regulation as a result of these immunomodulators that are produced in the brain. The fifth pillar here is nutrition and nourishment. And frankly speaking, as an internist many years ago, practicing both outpatient and inpatient internal medicine and then endocrinology, when patients came to me and they said, I changed my diet and my arthritis went away, I changed my diet, my asthma went away, I changed my diet, it helped my cancer treatment and helped me to go in a remission, I actually didn't believe them because I didn't understand how changing diet could change disease dramatically, even reverse disease, like heart disease, for example, is well known to be reversible now, coronary artery disease. So I didn't believe my patients at that time because I had no education about nutrition and, frankly speaking, no scientific basis on how food affects the body. But since then, we know a lot about how nourishment immediately changes genetic information in the body. And let me share a little insight into this because it's very important. So when you were conceived as a human being, at the moment of conception, when you became a fertilized egg, you acquired about 24,000 genes from your parents. A gene is a stretch of DNA that codes for a protein. That's how our life begins. And we have about 24,000 of them, half from your father, half from your mother. It's like the deck of cards that you were given or dealt with at the moment of conception. These 25,000 genes are responsible for the creation of human life, a human body, a human baby, a brain and a body with everything else that we call the body, all the organs in the body. But as we come into this world, and if we come through the birth canal of the mother, we actually inhale and swallow and are covered by the vaginal secretions of our mother. And this actually implants, gives us an inoculation of 2 million extra genes. And these 2 million, sometimes 20 million, depending on where you live, the environment, and so on, and the mother's lifestyle and the food that she takes, you now have 22 to 20 million extra genes that are in your body right now, in your gut, in all the orifices of your body, your mouth, your eyes, your nose, and ears, and urethra, and vagina, and uterus, and colon. And these genes are actually the majority of genes in your body. 99% of the genes in your body are microbial genes. And in addition to microbial genes, you have viral genes and fungal genes. Together, they create the biome, which is actually most of the genetic information in your body. So if you put food in your body that has poison, that is manufactured, refined, processed, has too much sugar, too many antibiotics, steroids, inflammatory products, organocides, and chemicals that inflame your microbiome. That's going to cause inflammation in the body. That's going to interact with the human genes and cause a lot of metabolic problems, and that results in chronic disease. You can change the genetic information in your body by taking a diet which is organic, which has maximum diversity of plant-based foods, which has absence of sugar, refined sugar, which contains the 7 colors of the rainbow and the 6 tastes of life. 7 colors provide all the phytochemicals. Phyto means light, chemicals from the energy of the sun that are the original source of all life on this planet. So a diet that is not manufactured, refined, processed, has chemicals, comes from farm to table. If you eat meat, fish, then make sure it doesn't come from a factory, and you'll repair your microbiome in a few weeks almost, and within 6 weeks you will have changed the genetic population of the microbes in your body, and that begins the healing process as well, very dramatically, in fact. And the other genes, the human genes that you have, they can be upgraded in their activity through what we call epigenetics. So basically, you can reinvent your body while you're resurrecting your soul. That's number 7 there, which is what I'm doing right now with you. And during this pandemic sequestration and lockdown. The 6th item you see on this list is biological rhythms, and these are very important. We have 4 kinds of biological rhythms. Circadian rhythms, a disruption of circadian rhythms is familiar to a lot of people. It is experienced as jet lag, when your body feels not quite right, you don't sleep well, your appetite is disturbed, your sleep-wake cycles are disturbed, the body gets inflamed. But there are other rhythms in our body, seasonal rhythms. Some people get depressed in winter. There are tidal rhythms. There are gravitational rhythms, which are tidal rhythms. There are rhythms related to the cycles of the moon. Our body is part of the universal symphony, if we may call it that. Universe means one song. And our biological organism is in alignment with that symphony. And we dance to it, even though we can't hear the tune. And when we are not aligned, then our body starts to feel sick. So I'll come to 7 later. I'd like us to just see the next slide, please. Sarina, will you please advance to the next slide? Okay, this is a slide that takes everything I've said and puts it into a broader perspective, because health and healing is not just physical. It includes being happy in our jobs, finding meaning and purpose in what we do every day, being engaged purposefully in what we do. After all, we spend 8 hours a day in our jobs. Even these days, people are spending a lot of time online, doing online jobs. Some are out there. And it is important that, of course, we maintain our health during this critical period. But also, here's some very interesting data which shows that if you have a career where there is a leadership style which is distributed, where there's shared vision, where everyone complements their strengths, when everyone is emotionally bonded, then that career is very successful. If your boss ignores you, your rate of disengagement goes up to 40%. If the boss criticizes you, it gets to 20%. If they notice a single strength, disengagement falls to less than 1%, and your health is affected as well. So these are some very interesting data, which also relate to what we call social and emotional well-being. If you have happy friends, you'll be happy. If you have obese friends, you're likely to be obese. The reason is you have the same habits, and so on. So it's always important that we engage with people with whom we are emotionally aligned, but also who we can support emotionally and spiritually through attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. And if they do the same, our health will improve. Very interesting data on this. And then, of course, I've covered a little bit about physical well-being in my previous slides. Financial well-being depends on how secure you feel about your finances. Are you paying your taxes? Please pay your taxes. Please pay your taxes, otherwise you'll be in trouble. You know what I mean. Okay, automated payments, savings, learning to give, and spending money on experiences that enhance your well-being is always such a good idea. And then, of course, we have community well-being, where we feel connected with people, we have shared passion, where we can organize events and volunteer. So if you put all these things together, we can say this is the package for total well-being. Of course, I haven't included spiritual well-being, which we'll come to in a moment. So right now, if I were to ask you, and you can do this right now, if I were to ask you, close your eyes right this moment and intuitively answer the following question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how's your life? And if intuitively you answer this question with, say, 7, no, 8, 9, or 10, how's life on a scale of 1 to 10? If you score 8, 9, or 10, you're thriving and your future is good. If you scored something like 5, 6, 7, then you're struggling in one of these areas that I mentioned. If you scored less than 5, you're suffering, and you may already have a chronic illness, or you might have a lot of inflammation in your body. A good way to assess yourself, 1 is life sucks, and 10 is life couldn't be better. And then you identify which area you need to look at. Okay, next slide, please. Serena, may I see the next slide? So here's some good research that shows that during meditation, we change gene activity. All the genes that are responsible for self-regulation, healing, they go up. These studies were done in collaboration with many institutions. You can see genes that are associated with increased wellness go up, some 17-fold over baseline, and genes that are associated with heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, inflammation, and all kinds of other diseases go down very significantly. There's no drug that can do that. Next slide, please. This slide shows an increase in the activity of an enzyme called telomerase in a 1-week meditation retreat. And this study was performed with collaboration with UCSF, with Elizabeth Blackburn, who is a recipient of the Nobel Prize in Medicine for discovering the enzyme telomerase. So next slide, Elizabeth actually wrote a book about this afterwards, Living Younger, Healthier, Longer, based on the findings in this and many other studies that meditation affects our genetic clock in the direction of youth. So we can not only live longer, but we can live healthier. Okay, so let's see the next slide. Here is some more data that shows how epigenetics works. So epi means above, and epigenetics means above the genes. Those blue balls that you see here, they're called histones, and they are proteins, and DNA is wrapped around them. And our experiences of everyday life, every experience, from things like stress or happiness or emotions or diet or sleep or how we age or what drugs we are taking and how this affects health endpoints like cancer, autoimmune illness, mental disorders, diabetes, is all influenced by the factors that I mentioned: diet, lifestyle, environment, drugs, our childhood experiences, but most importantly right now for our purposes, meditation, how it affects gene activity. Next slide, please. So these effects are quite instantaneous. This is a study which shows how we can direct our biological transformation through mental and physical detox, and how that changes the entire metabolic profile of our biology. Next slide, please. The effects of meditation are pretty wholesome in that they're not physical, but even our sense of identity shifts from an ego identity to a more spiritual identity. Again, this study was recently published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine, and you can see multiple co-authors, because of the data that we looked at, came from many institutions. Next slide, please. And the effects are instantaneous. You can watch them on your smartphone and even as you're meditating. Next slide, please. So right now we're in the process of developing new algorithms that show the correlation between what's happening in the brain, our mental health, looking at genes, how that affects pain management, bioregulation, and how at the back of this is one thing, managing stress through biological feedback, including technology. May I have the next slide, please? And this is what we are in the process of looking at now, the vagus nerve, how it's affected with meditation, deep breathing, and how everything that happens every day in our life, including our dreams, our digestive functions, the fine-tuning of our hormones, sleep-wake cycles, immune function, is directly reflected in our body, in our eye movements, in the clarity of our eyes, in our breathing rate, heart rate variability. We can now actually look at the components of what we call a joyful, energetic body. Next slide, please. And this is where we are today, looking at the overall effects of total well-being and total meditation, with the ultimate goal of lightness of being, not just a joyful, energetic body, but love, compassion in the heart, clear mind, lightness of being. These are some of the modalities, and everything is measurable. Next slide, please. Now we come to the topic of total meditation. So let's put this slide off for the moment, but we'll come back here. Okay, what I'd like to do right now is talk to you without any slides. What is the real purpose of total meditation? We've seen the effects of meditation, biological effects. There are effects on our body in the direction of healing. Mentally, we feel more settled. We evoke emotions that are healing. We experience lightness of being. But the real purpose of meditation in the great spiritual traditions is to wake up from what we call everyday reality, which is a lucid dream in a vivid now. The great German philosopher Wittgenstein said in one of his writings, "We are asleep, our life is a dream, but once in a while we wake up enough to know that we're dreaming." What does that mean? Well, here's a simple way to understand why everyday reality is a dream. If I asked you what happened to your childhood, you'd say, it's a dream now. If I asked you what happened to you yesterday, I think you'd say, that's also a dream right now. If I asked you what happened 5 minutes ago, that's now a dream. What happens to these words? By the time you hear them and understand them, they don't exist. So everything you're looking at right now is a lucid dream in a vivid now. You cannot catch experience. It is over as soon as it occurs. So that's one definition of a dream. It's uncatchable, it's amorphous, it's not graspable. And what we call our everyday reality is like that, because every moment, everything changes. Your body changes, your mind changes, your emotions change, your experience of the world changes. It's ungraspable. And the great spiritual traditions say this is why we suffer. We try to grasp a dream, clutch at a dream, when in fact we are already experiencing the dream, not knowing that we are recycling old stories, recycling stories of pain and pleasure. In fact, in the Eastern wisdom traditions, the physical body is called the karmic body, a reflection of our internal dialogue that is constantly vacillating between pleasure and pain. But if we go deeper, then we'll see that we are a consciousness that is constantly constructing experience through the interpretation of our perceptual activities and our raw experience of existence, which is just sensations, perceptions, images, feelings, and thoughts. All experience is just that: sensations, sense perceptions, images, feelings, and thoughts. So when you look at the world, all you see is colors and shapes and forms. The experience of objects is actually a construction. So when you look at me, for example, and you look at this, you look at my body, you look at the furniture behind me, what you're actually seeing is colors, shapes, and forms. But then you interpret them as that's a book, this is a hand, and that's furniture in the back. That's an interpretation of raw experience, colors, shapes, and forms, visually. Furthermore, we experience only 1% of the visual spectrum, and we call it reality. Same thing with hearing. When you hear, you experience 1% of the acoustic spectrum, and it's noise. But through agreement, we have given words to certain noises right now in English, and the noise I'm producing is now being heard as words and hopefully some meaning behind that. In other words, all our experience is a construction. To see is not just to see or observe. To see is to construct. To hear is to construct. Anything that we can call an experience is a construction in our consciousness. When we realize that, we are ready to create our reality through total meditation. So now let's see the slide where we stopped. In this slide, Serena, the slide where we stopped. Okay, so what you're seeing right now is colors, shapes, and forms. But there are two entangled meanings in these colors, shapes, and forms. One meaning says, oh, there's a man with a Mexican hat on a horse, and there's a person lying by the wayside. Another interpretation, meaning says, no, that's an old man with a beard. Which one is it? Well, it's both, entangled in meaning, and all you're seeing is colors, shapes, and forms. This is true of every perception, by the way. We create the meaning in that experience. Next slide. So again, here, when you look at this picture, all you see is colors, shapes, and forms with entangled meaning. Entangled meaning means if you think of one meaning, then you see one picture. If you think of the other meaning, you see the other picture, right? So you can see a woman with beautiful locks, or you can see two horses against an amazing background of sky and mountains and colors and all of that. Which one is it? It's neither. All it is, colors, shapes, and forms. The construction of experience is in consciousness. Once we understand that, let me show you one more or two more slides. So next slide, please. So look at these dots here in the frame, right where the nose should be. Look at these dots. Don't blink them. I'll do the counting. Don't blink your eyes. Just look at the dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now, without blinking, shift your eyes to the white background, and you might see Jesus Christ or a rabbi. Let's see the next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, now similarly, look at the 4 colored dots in this young lady's nose without blinking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Now look at the ceiling without blinking. And you'll see the real color of this girl's face, the real look of this girl's face. What is happening is we are projecting meaning into raw experience. This is what meditation is. So there are many kinds of meditation: reflective self-inquiry, contemplation, introducing intention, mindfulness, mindful awareness of thought, of the mind, mindful awareness of emotions, of breath, of body, of sensations, of perceptions, of mental space, of the web of relationship. All of that is very much part of total meditation, but then there is transcendence, going beyond thought into the source of thought. And then introducing intention in the source of thought, transcending thought, and creating meaning in our sensory experiences of the world so that we begin to create our own life, including participating in the creation of what the body is, the creation of what the mind is, and creation of our world experience. Sounds like a huge promise, but actually we're doing it all the time. We're doing it unconsciously. Now we do it consciously. So with that, what I'd like to do at this moment is introduce us to meditation. Total meditation includes many things and can be done instantly at any moment. In my book, you will see 52 mantras that can take you to different places, but you will also find techniques of contemplation, self-inquiry, transcendence, mindful awareness, or instantly slipping into what we call meditation mode. But the ultimate goal is still finding out who we are and finding freedom from suffering. Eastern wisdom traditions say we suffer because we don't know what fundamental reality is. We don't know who we are. We grasp at a dream. We recoil from a dream. We identify with a skin-encapsulated ego self, and we are afraid of death. But once we find total meditation, go to the source of thought and have self-realization, all this disappears because it was part of the dream. Okay, so wherever you are, sit comfortably right now. Keep your feet firmly planted on the ground. We can put this slide away, please, and for now, and then we'll come back to slides later. Keep your feet firmly on the ground. Uncross your legs. Keep your hands open in your lap. Your fingers pointing upwards like this on your lap, and your back relatively erect. You can close your eyes now and just observe your breath. You'll see that when you observe the breath, it automatically slows down because the breath is the same as the movement of thought. It's the most primal sensation we have. Just observe the breath without manipulating it. Notice that the breath is a sensation. It arises by itself. It's experienced, then it subsides. That's true of every experience that we have. Every perception, every thought, every experience arises by itself, is known, then disappears. You're not the experience. You're the one who's watching it. So watch your breath. And now bring your awareness into the region of your heart, in the middle of your chest. And mentally ask yourself, who am I? What am I? Don't try to answer the question. Just ask the question. Who am I? What am I? As you do that, feel your body as well. Go a little deeper into that question. Am I the changing body, or am I the awareness in which the changing body is an experience? Just ask the question. Don't try to answer it. We're engaging in contemplative self-inquiry or reflection. Am I the changing body? Am I the awareness in which the body is changing? Am I the changing mind? Or am I the awareness in which the mind is changing? Am I the changing world? Or am I the awareness in which the world is changing? Simple questions with profound insights, which you don't even have to try to answer, they come to you. Now ask the question, what do I want? What do I want from my life, for me, for my family, for my community, for the world? What do I want? Don't try to answer. Just be aware of any sensations, images, feelings, thoughts that may spontaneously come to you. What do I want? I now mentally ask the question, what is my purpose? What is my calling? What gives me meaning in my life? Once again, what is my purpose? Allowing any sensations, any images, any feelings, any thoughts to spontaneously arise. And last question, what am I grateful for? Gratitude opens the door to abundance and creativity, decreases inflammation in the body, begins the healing process. What am I grateful for? Allowing any sensations, images, feelings, or thoughts to spontaneously come to you. Now we are going to go deeper. So let go of the questions and just repeat your last name to yourself. I am Deepak Chopra. I am Mary Smith. I am John Doe. Just repeat your last name to yourself and your first name. And now you can stop repeating your name, but bring into your awareness everything that is upsetting you these days, whether it's stress or money or the pandemic. Anything that's upsetting you, let it come into your awareness. Feel the stress. I want you to feel it right now. Okay? So many things happening. And now let's shift to another mode. Instead of repeating your full name, repeat your first name. I'm Deepak, I'm Mary, I'm John. A few times. And now stop repeating that and bring into your awareness some of the most joyful moments of your life. Maybe going back to childhood or teenage years or whenever you fell in love, you had a baby, you were ecstatic, something amazing happened. Bring that into your awareness. See how everything shifts. And now we go even deeper. So instead of saying, I'm Deepak, I'm Mary, I'm John, just say, I am with no name and no form attached to it. No name, no form. Finally, drop that. Let it go. I am with no name, form, or maybe a mantra, aham, no name, no form, and let it go. And now find your stillness. your presence. Be aware of the presence of your own being. Rest in the stillness and the presence of your own being. Be aware of yourself. Be aware of being aware. This still presence is the real you. Has no shape, no form, no color, no sound, no thought. Just present. It was there when you were a baby. It's there now. It never goes away. Everything else changes. But I am is always present. So now embrace this presence and be still. This presence is pure consciousness, all possibilities, the source of creativity, of insight, of imagination, of vision, of transcendence, of love, of compassion, of joy, equanimity. Just be present to your own presence. Before we come out, bring your awareness into your whole body. Feel every sensation that you can from the inside out. As you're feeling the sensation, mentally say to yourself, joyful, energetic body. Joyful, energetic body. Now bring awareness to your heart and mentally say to yourself, loving, compassionate heart. Loving, compassionate heart. Now bring your awareness to your third eye between the eyebrows. Mentally introduce the intention. Reflective, alert mind. Reflective, alert mind. And let your awareness now move outside the boundaries of your body. Let it pervade all of space-time with the intention, lightness of being. Lightness of being. Finally, bring your awareness back to your breath. And maybe a little stretch, a little yawn, and then you can open your eyes. And once you've opened your eyes, we will start our Q&A session. So Serena, you can put on the next slide. Next slide. So this is total meditation and some glimpse of it. In the book, you'll see lots of techniques, some lasting a few seconds, some actually finding the miraculous in every moment, and some going deeper and going right to the source of all experience. So thank you very much, and I'm very happy now to answer any questions that you may have.
Hello, thank you for that. I will take a look at the questions. All right.
By the way, Serena, since you recorded this, you're welcome to use it in the bookstore, and I'm mentioning this for all the other booksellers as well.
Oh, thank you. That's wonderful. Okay, we have a question here. Would you like me to leave this slide up, or shall I just go to your face?
It doesn't matter. We can get the slide there or leave it, either way.
Okay, great. Okay, we have a question from Maggie. She says, Deepak, thank you so much for being here tonight, and I appreciate you talking about grief and the virus. I am in the midst of losing a family member. My father-in-law is in hospice dying of pancreatic cancer. Can you talk about how to start into the practice of meditation when in the midst of the numbness and grief? I know that meditation is wonderful, but I don't know how to get back into it.
Well, right now, it's very important that you do engage in some kind of meditation practice. But let me give you a website. It's right now, www.neveralone.love. Once again, www.neveralone.love. Over there, you'll find a little chatbot. Her name is Peewee. Within 10 seconds, she can assess your mood, help you, engage with you, and also share with you best practices, not just meditation, but also emotional support. Neveralone.love is a nonprofit, part of the Chopra Foundation, and we are creating a global community of people not feeling lonely, but feeling supported, engaging with each other and helping each other. We're also creating a blockchain cryptocurrency to help you see a counselor if you need to and pay for it. So check it out and get engaged, neveralone.love. And at this moment, all you can do is accept the situation, feel the love for your family member, give all the support you can emotionally, but with your friends right now, make sure attention, deep listening, affection, deep caring, appreciation, notice how and be grateful for the gift they are in your life, and acceptance. Don't try to change yourself or anyone, just embrace your presence.
Okay, we have an anonymous attendee asking, how does prayer compare to meditation? I can only find guided meditation in English via apps like Calm, which is not my native language, so I found that praying in my native language helps me connect with myself better. Do you think language plays a role in becoming more self-aware? Is meditation when hearing/thinking a foreign language as effective as doing it in your native language?
Well, this is a very interesting question. Prayer is you talking to a higher consciousness, and meditation is you listening to a higher consciousness. In total meditation, we introduce intention, like we did just now. Joyful, energetic body, that's a prayer. Okay? Loving, compassionate heart, that's a prayer. Lord, give me this. Thy will be done, but give me this. Whatever metaphor you want to use. So yes, we have an app also, by the way, which has all the features of Calm. It's called Chopra. What else would it be called? And it has everything that Calm has, but it also takes you to a new level through prayer, through inquiry, through all the things that I'm mentioning. And of course, when you pray in your own language, it makes a big difference.
Okay, thank you. Another anonymous question. With all of the stress/feelings right now, what do you recommend for those who wake up in the middle of the night and can't fall back to sleep? what action can we take? With everything going on in the world, my mind doesn't want to slow down. I didn't really have this problem before the pandemic. That is very relatable. I
Yeah.
feel the same.
So if you wake up at night and you can't sleep, you wake up in the middle of the night. I shared with you something that I learned a while ago. And that is, if you keep your body totally still and you breathe through the nose and pretend that your body is paralyzed, your brain gets that message. And of course, you start to think of other things. As soon as you start to think of other things, come back to watching your breath, breathing through the nose, and keeping the body still. That's a very, very important way to go back to sleep. Now, if your mind is totally racing, then I would suggest pick up one of the mantras from the book. There are seed mantras. There's the mantras that resonate with the breath, etc., and that would help.
Thank you. A question about the slideshow. Can you explain how we saw a real girl after staring at the negative girl? How did the brain do this?
Every moment you construct experience, the brain doesn't do it. The brain is still getting the same message, right? What's the brain getting? Whenever you're seeing somebody, all that's coming to their brain is electricity. That's it. So right now you're looking at me, and this is very complicated right now because we're using Zoom, and you are seeing me and you're seeing Serena. What's happening? All that's coming to your eyes are photons. All that's going to your brain is an electrical current. All that's happening in your brain is electrochemistry. So how do you experience anything? That's a mystery. That's in science, that's called the hard problem of consciousness. We don't know how photons coming into the brain create this experience of a physical world or even of your body. So there's an alternative explanation for this, which now cognitive scientists are saying, actually, when you see something and you hear something, you're constructing the experience. You're constructing it. The visual experience is only colors. Then as soon as I give you meaning, I say, look up there and you might see the real girl. You'll see the real girl because I made that suggestion before. Or when you saw those paintings, you entangle meaning into it. Same thing with sound. Same thing with any experience. So if I asked you right now to imagine a lemon, do it right now. Imagine a lemon. Imagine putting a knife through it and then imagine licking it, and suddenly you'll see that your saliva starts to flow, right? Because your body is made out of the same stuff as your mind is. It's the same thing, and it's all modified consciousness. Once you understand this, you start to create your own reality.
All right. Bruce says that you have a wonderful radio voice, and also wanted to ask what age you first achieved self-awareness, as you spoke about evolving past normal medical training for a while. Around what age was that?
I can't say. It was very gradual. It's like a fruit that ripens and one day it falls. So, my whole shtick, so to speak, is mind-body medicine. And then I realized that the body is not a noun, it's a verb. It's a constantly changing activity of the mind. And then I realized the mind is a constantly changing activity of the self. It took a long time. I'd say 30, 40 years to slowly fall into the place where I realized that I'm not squeezed into the volume of a body of the span of a lifetime. These are passing dreams. My real self is timeless and beyond all this drama, and I can create my reality. And a lot of people in the world are waking up right now.
This person says, thank you for speaking with us today. I suffer from chronic pain issues with my back. Before my injury, I found it to be much easier to be present while meditating. However, recently the pain has become more intense and it is very distracting while trying to meditate. Do you have any tips to deal with physical pain while meditating?
Yeah, when you transcend in meditation, then pain disappears. There are many, many studies that show this. Now, of course, if you're having a lot of pain, you can't focus on the mantra or whatever because your attention is going on the pain. So what we're discovering in our research is if somebody like who's in extreme pain, they're put in a different environment through VR, for example, or through these augmented dreamscapes. These days we have augmented like VR technologies. You can manage pain, you can create you can treat burns, you can treat phobias, you can treat all kinds of chronic inflammation. So I would suggest you go online, actually even go on my YouTube channel, which is called the Chopra Well, and you look at some meditations over there, some for insomnia, some for healing, and try them out. You know, they're guided meditations, so you don't have to focus and see what happens. But as we move into the future, we are creating VR and biofeedback for just the problem that you have. Right now, try these visual guided meditations, which are found on YouTube, and on my channel, you'll find them, and they're all free. The Chopra Well is the link to the YouTube channel.
Monica is asking if you could talk a little bit about how you personally incorporate meditation and awareness into your daily life.
Well, I have to say, because I've been doing this for 35, 40 years, I'm in that state most of the time. I don't get out of that state, but I do wake up early in the morning. I do my yoga practice. I do meditation before I start my day. And I introduce those intentions that I mentioned earlier. You know, joyful, energetic body, loving, compassionate heart, reflective mind. And then I let my day kind of organize itself around those intentions. So I practice total meditation.
Of course. So we have a question. This book contains 52 mantras that can be used as a year's course in mantra meditation. What is a mantra and what are the benefits of mantra meditation?
The word mantra comes from two roots. Man, which means is the Sanskrit Hindi word for mind. It's also the origin of the word woman or human. So man means mind. Tra is an instrument of the mind that helps you go beyond the mind. So when you're meditating with the mantra, two things happen. One is that you're having thoughts. What are thoughts? They are past memories and future desires. All thoughts are either about the past or about the future. And that's what we call the internal dialogue. You just have to close your eyes and you'll be aware that you're talking to yourself. Everybody's talking to themselves all the time. Now, when you introduce a mantra, it takes your attention away from your internal dialogue in the direction of what we can call ambiguity or a cloud of thoughts or even vagueness of thought. So you move from predictable thought to unpredictable thought. The thought process is called the upward stroke of meditation. So think of an ocean. The bottom of the ocean is still. The surface of the ocean has waves. Waves have an upward stroke. So the upward stroke in meditation is thought. The downward stroke is mantra. And they're both necessary. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a wave. Now, once in a while, what happens is what we call transcendence. The mantra and the thought, they cancel each other out. There's no mantra, there's no thought. That is the experience that we call transcendence or awareness. And that is what meditation is for. 52 mantras, the earlier mantras are called seed mantras. And you can choose one to say which feels good, which vibrates well, which takes you to this place. No mantra, no thought. And then there are other mantras over there that have purpose, like for abundance or, you know, feeling safe or losing weight, etc., etc. They're thematic. They have intentions built into this. They're not inventions by me. They're traditional mantras. And actually, in many traditions, there are mantras. Gregorian chants are mantras. Centering prayers are mantras, etc. So that's how we use mantras. And there are 52 of them in the book, for sure.
All right. Speaking of intention, Valeria is asking how you differentiate a true intention from that ego-driven willpower that gets in our way?
Ego-driven intentions are often accompanied by fear, by anxiety, by anticipation, by resistance. They're driven by past memories. Pure intentions that actually orchestrate their own fulfillment come from the source. So that's why meditation is very helpful. You introduce stillness and then you introduce intention. In stillness, the intention has no ego.
Okay. Karen is wondering if meditation can help you break bad habits. We're always trying to do that.
That's how I started. That's how I started. I was a medical doctor smoking cigarettes, and I decided to start meditation. Ended up here right now.
It's quite a journey.
Yeah.
Beth says, thank you so much for being with us tonight. You make meditation seem so simple and enjoyable. How would I go about setting up a daily meditation practice so it seems that simple? Time of day, place, how long, and how do I stick to it?
Before you get out of bed in the morning, just lie there for a little bit, try and recall your dreams, and then sit up and meditate even for 5 minutes. Watch your breath or introduce an intention. Start with that, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Slowly build it up to 20 minutes and you'll be all set.
We have a question here. Do you believe that the spirit has the ability to leave our bodies, such as in astral projection?
The spirit is neither inside your body nor outside your body. The spirit is timeless, spaceless, and has no location. That's why in spiritual tradition they say omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. It knows everything. It's called pure knowing. It's neither inside nor outside. So today, when we say, I am inside my body, I have an in-body experience, there's no explanation for that. Okay, because if I went inside your body, there's no little Deepak looking out of my brain through these eyes at the world. You won't find me inside my body, nor will you find me outside my body. So where am I? The answer is, I don't have a location in space-time. So out-of-body experiences, in-body experiences are equally valid or invalid. The real experience is, I'm everywhere. And by the way, there's a meditation for that in the book as well. It's called the Master Meditation.
All right. A slightly more practical question here. Susan says, thank you for sharing your enormous knowledge with us, Deepak. I have a nephew with debilitating anxiety. How can our family help him embrace meditation and give him the confidence that he can help heal himself?
How old is he? Depending on how old is he, if he's a teenager, then he should definitely check out neveralone.love and play with the chatbot, make him feel better immediately. So if he's over 10 years, our chatbot was invented just for this reason, to detect depression, anxiety, help, and offer resources. In the last 1 month, since we introduced neveralone.love, we have intervened in 400 suicide crisis attempts and help other people. And there's 1 million people having a conversation there right now. And your nephew should participate as well, will be helped.
And this person is wondering, why did I cry during meditation?
You were releasing stress, and that's a beautiful thing. Those tears actually contain healing chemicals.
That makes sense. Has the shared experience of the pandemic served to teach us lessons and hastened the time when we will share the experiences of collective consciousness? Asks Molly.
I think so. As you know, one thing that I learned from this pandemic is that I think climate change is reversible. As we went back into our cages, the environment started to repair itself. Birds started coming back. Bees started coming back. Fish returned to dead lakes. You could see the Himalayas from 500 miles away. So nature is repairing herself. And also, when the price of petroleum falls to less than $1, you know that an oil-free economy is possible. So what I'm seeing possibly in the future is a direct insight into how climate change, social injustice, economic injustice, war, violence, terrorism, economic exploitation and injustice are all linked. Even the mutations are linked to a toxic environment. I see also that new technologies are emerging. It's not just the vaccine. There are people producing new technologies through light, through ultraviolet, through infrared, through creating particulate-free environments that at the end of this pandemic, we will actually see amazing new inventions and innovations as well. Yeah, I was looking at the last 100 years of pandemic and economic depression. So in the First World War, what emerged after the First World War was AM radio. What emerged after the Second World War, unfortunately, was the atomic bomb, but also television. In the 90s, when we had the economic crisis, late 80s, we saw the internet come. It's only in the 90s that the internet was possible. In the year 2000, smartphones, and then now Zoom and all these technologies, people are already coming up with technologies for COVID-free environments and actually better communication, and also using new platforms like cryptocurrency and blockchain to democratize well-being across the world. And we are very much part of that. So the pandemic has brought new meaning and a new look at how we view ourselves and the world. Some of us.
Carol is wondering if silent meditation is more helpful than guided. She says she's been to Perfect Health at the Chopra Center twice, and it was so powerful.
Yeah, of course, silent meditation is much more powerful, but guided meditation is very good also for people who are beginners.
Julie is wondering if you've written a book on spirituality and human sexuality, or if you could recommend a book on the topic.
I have one book on, it's called the Kama Sutra. It's the Eastern interpretation on spirituality and sexuality and how they come together, because they're both creative energies. Spiritual energy is creative energy, and sexual energy is also creative energy. Without that energy, there's no life on the planet. So how do you reconcile the two? I have written a book, Kama Sutra, but I think there are so many other books. I would recommend reading Jean Houston, and there are many beautiful books. Margot Anand is, in my view, the best writer on science and on sex and spirituality. I keep saying science and spirituality because that's what my interest is in.
Right, of course. Brenda says, thank you so much for this experience and learning. My husband is deaf, and I'd like to share the meditation practices you provide with him. Do you have any suggestions for us?
Well, right now I don't, but I think if you go on the internet, even on my YouTube channel, there may be people who have adapted these meditations with other forms of communication than speech. So I will check it out myself, but you can also see if there are guided meditations that do not involve verbal speech.
We have someone who says that they have a terrible time with tinnitus, is wondering what they can do to decrease or eliminate the constant ringing so that they may meditate better.
I don't know of any good regular treatment for tinnitus other than some people benefit from antihistamines. Now, in the yogic tradition, you can use something called Brahmari, which is a breathing technique that makes a buzzing bee sound like this. And you direct that sound to your ears. And some people actually find that it helps with tinnitus.
Another question on a different note. Does poetry have a role in integrating body and mind?
100%. Poetry is one of the best ways to go into the soul, beyond the mind. T.S. Eliot, you said poetry is a raid on the inarticulate. So it goes beyond the rational mind and it actually touches you at the source, which we call the soul, but we also experience as something very strong in our hearts. So yes, for me, poetry is one of the best forms of meditation.
Kristen says, can you speak about after someone we love dies? Are they still with us energetically? Fear of death of loved ones creeps into my meditation.
Yes, if you remember a person who has passed away, bring their image and their voice into your heart and feel them, you will feel their presence, and they might feel your presence if you believe that the spirit is independent of perceptual activity. It is, which it is. Meditation tells us that our awareness is independent of our bodily and mind experiences. That's the whole purpose of meditation. But once you're in that presence, you can invite any presence and commune with them. So the answer is yes.
Another very relatable question here. Is it usual to feel fear entering meditation as a beginner?
Yes, because fear is fear of intimacy with your own self. A lot of people are running around because they're not comfortable with themselves. And once they encounter an intimate experience with their inner self, sometimes they even feel embarrassed, but sometimes they feel fear and stress. If they stay with it, they fall in love with themselves.
Does enlightenment exist?
Yes, it's the only thing that exists. Everything else is part of the dream.
And speaking of the dream, we have a question. If it is all a dream, then is it possible to affect human progress?
Yes, we upgrade the dream. Right now, the dream is a nightmare. And we are all fictional characters in that collective dreamscape, but we are suffering. Even our fictional character is suffering. So we need to upgrade the dream.
A good way of putting it, I would say. Speaking of this current nightmare, we have a question here. People often decrease or abandon their meditation practice during challenging times like this. Can you explain why and how it's so important to continue to meditate through stressful situations like what we're all experiencing?
Well, right now it's more important than ever. So when people say, I don't have time, they're the ones who need it most. So take a few minutes and just stay with it. There's nothing right or wrong about meditation. You just do it. And once you do it, you're doing it right.
Let's see. So we just have a couple more here. This is sort of related to what you were talking about earlier, but Elizabeth says, when I go to bed, I feel physically exhausted, but my mind is on a treadmill. What are some ways I can calm my mind to drift into a peaceful sleep?
One way is actually to watch the mind, and you suddenly become aware that you're not the mind, you're the watcher of the mind. So, don't try to get rid of thoughts, because trying to get rid of a thought is a thought. Okay, and that only will aggravate the whole situation. Just watch it and you'll see, or even try to hold on to it and you'll say it's impossible.
All right. I think this is going to be our last question this evening, and I think it sort of ties everything up pretty nicely. How does the practice of total meditation differ from other practices of meditation?
Well, there are so many practices of meditation. Total meditation includes all of them, but more importantly, it helps you stay in the zone if you want all the time. So you can trigger any experience, and any experience you can use as a trigger to go into centered awareness and higher consciousness.
Great. Well, I think that's everything. Thank you again for being here, and thank you to all of you out there in the world watching and sharing this experience with us. thank you also for supporting indie bookstores in these really difficult times. Your support is what keeps us going. So thanks again. And I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. Keep reading, keep meditating, and be well.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarita. Bye-bye. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.